This video is for families where one adult is already thinking about working in the European Union, and there is a picture in their head that looks something like this. We will apply together, and within a couple of months, we will be settled in a house with a garden, the kids will be in school, and I will be starting my new job. Honestly, family relocation almost never looks that simple. Every country has its own rules. Who goes first, on what income, and when and how a spouse and children can follow. At Natlan, questions about family relocation come up constantly in consultations. I'm Diana Sadikova, and together with our team, we have been guiding clients through every stage of this process, from the first residence permit to citizenship, for more than 15 years. The expectation: we all live together. When families plan a move, the most common scenario sounds like this. We will find a contract in the EU, apply for a residence permit as a family, fly over together, and calmly get the kids settled into school and kindergarten. On paper, it looks logical. One person is the primary applicant for employment, everyone else joins as a family members. But several factors make that picture significantly more complicated. The employer is not always willing to wait for the whole family or cover additional costs. The minimum income threshold for a family is higher than for a single person. The primary applicant's contract typically needs to be open-ended or at minimum extend beyond 12 months. Also, finding suitable housing in advance, the right size, the right price, is its own separate challenge. The most common mistake in family relocations is planning without calculating the required income per family member and without accounting for the fact that a spouse and children status is entirely dependent on the primary applicant status. When the law actually allows everyone to move together. There are programs where relocating as a full family from day one is genuinely realistic, provided the primary applicant has a strong enough foundation from the start. Situations where the law generally permits the whole family to arrive together. For example, skilled and highly qualified work roads, where you have an open-ended contract or one that extends at least 12 months forward, and your income meets the minimum threshold for the entire family, not just for yourself. Another type of programs: investment programs and golden visa routes, where you meet the investment threshold and a spouse and children are included in the same application package as family members of the investor from the beginning. Financial independent and passive income programs, where your regular income and savings clearly meet the country's requirements for a family, not just for one person. Also, specific academic and research pathways, where the law explicitly allows a master's or PhD student or a researcher to bring a spouse and children immediately, provided sufficient income and housing are in place. The common thing that all these scenarios have is that the state has no doubt that your income is stable, your contract is not short-term, and you can generally support your entire family financially. In these cases, a single combined application is usually possible, and the family can enter together with the primary applicant. When even a good income gets you one first, family later. There is another group of situations that families find genuinely painful, where the income looks solid, the employer is serious, but the immigration authority says, we process you first, then your spouse and children. This happens when the contract is short, 3 to 6 months, or with an extended probationary period. Even if the salary figure looks fine, for family reunification, this is treated as an unstable income. The state is not confident you will still be in this position in 6 months. You are entering on a more fragile program, an internship, a first student residence permit, temporary project, or a time-limited grant. You technically have status, but it's not treated as a long-term basis for relocating an entire family. The country's law explicitly requires a staged process. The primary applicant must first obtain residence, register, demonstrate several months of income, and only then becomes eligible to sponsor family reunification. In these situations, even a high salary doesn't always resolve it. What immigration authorities care about is not that you generally earn well, but it is that you have a documented long-term contract and income that will not disappear on paper in a few months. This is why a sensible strategy often looks like this. One adult establishes status first, starts working, and builds a track record. Once the contract is long-term or open-ended and income and housing are confirmed, a separate family reunification process is initiated. This is not always what families want to hear when they're picturing a clean, all-together move, but it is the honest legal reality. The format and stability of the contract matters more to immigration authorities than the number on the offer letter. When a stage move is actually the smart choice. In a number of situations, phased relocation genuinely gives the family more security. The initial salary offers qualifies for one person but not for a family of four. The employer cannot wait for all documents covering a spouse and children to be prepared. The family wants to test the city, the neighborhood, and the schools before uprooting the children. This approach often reduces the risk of family application rejections and gives time to properly organize infrastructure, schools, childcare, healthcare before the full move. The most difficult outcome in a family relocation is when the primary applicant successfully obtains a residence permit, but at the family reunification stage, the requirements turn out not to be met, and part of the family is stuck waiting with no clear timeline. In our consultations at Natlan, we see the scenario more often than people expect, and it is almost always avoidable with the right planning upfront. Tell me in the comments, which part concerns you most? Income calculations, housing, or documentation for children? That will help me decide which topics to cover next. And if you want to understand whether the altogether scenario is realistic for your family, or whether a stage approach makes more sense for your specific situation, book a consultation with our team at Natlan using the link in the description. We will go through your contract, your income, your family structure, and map out the safest road forward.